Welcome back to First Take. The Celtics have won 6 out of their last 7 games after last night's victory over the 76ers. Neemias Queta and Jaylen Brown both scored 27 points to help the Celtics reach 40 wins on the season. The C's came away with a 16-point win. Celtics now sit in the 2 spot. They're 5.5 games behind the Pistons. Are they a real threat in the East, Vince?
Yeah, they're a real threat in the East, Shay. Like, Jason Tatum is on his way back. He may be back in the next couple of weeks. Jaylen Brown is an MVP candidate. Are they the team to beat? Nah, I can't say that. Because if we're going to say regular season matters, if we're going to say that defense matters, if we're going to say that all of these things have to be taken into account, Detroit has its own MVP candidate. Now, I have my doubts about whether Detroit can go through not winning a playoff series to get to the NBA Finals. But they are the team in the East with the best home record, the best road record, the best defense, and an MVP. That is a formula despite the shooting. The shooting is horrific right now. It ain't great, but I still think Detroit is a team to beat. Somebody's going to have to beat them.
Wendy?
Look, I can sit here for the next half hour, guys, and go over why I think the Pistons can win or the Pistons can lose. The Celtics, the Cavs, the Knicks. I can create a case for them, all of them, winning and losing because they all are flawed teams. And it's a very tightly packed East. I understand Detroit's been number 1 for the entire season, but they have their flaws, okay? Let's be honest. Only one of these teams can materially improve with the addition of a player, and that's the Celtics. And of course, I don't know what Jason Tatum will look like when he comes back. I don't know what he looks like in game 1 of him coming back. I don't know what he looks like in May, okay? But the upside that the Celtics have because of the Tatum factor is the story in the Eastern Conference. That's the way it is. If he comes back and is even close to the All-NBA player that he has been for years, it is an absolute game-changing moment. Of course there will be some chemistry issues when he first tries to come back. Of course I don't expect him to be great. But you cannot look at this and look at the situation and not say that the Tatum potential re-entry changes the entire dynamic for Boston.
I say?
Here's my thing. By the way, major props. I heard you talking earlier on Get Up, Wendy, about this kid, Queta, 7-footer, 26 years old. Brother had a great performance yesterday, 27 and 17. Got to give him love. You got a big man that can go out there and produce for you. They seem really, really high on him. The combination of him and a guy like Vucevic who can hit perimeter shots and pull bigs away from the basket certainly feeds into what Boston is doing. The answer to this question is that they are obviously a team that's a huge threat in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't say they are the team to beat because I still think that's the Detroit Pistons. But in the same breath, I can't summarily dismiss what we're seeing from them, particularly with Jaylen Brown having elevated his game. Jason Tatum is the wild card because even though he makes the team better, the reality is the last time we saw them, they were on the verge of losing to the New York Knicks. They were going down 3-1. Jason Tatum got hurt in the last 2-3 minutes of the game in Game 4. They were going down 3-1 to the New York Knicks, going back to Boston in that Eastern Conference semifinal series. Let's keep it a buck in that regard. So they were about to go home in all likelihood. And so we can't look at them and just say Jason Tatum coming back, all of a sudden he changes everything. But in the same breath, because of the elevation of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum being the class individual that he is, along with an all-world talent, could they make some noise? None of us can rule it out, especially when you're finding diamonds in the rough like this kid, Queta, and then you've got Vucevic, like I said. Peyton Pritchard is balling as well. You know, you just look at some of these guys on the bench. Derek White, you can never dismiss him and how clutch he can be. They are definitely a threat, no doubt about it. They're just not the team to beat as of yet. That has to be the Detroit Pistons with what we've seen from Detroit. But Boston is a better shooting team, I can tell you that much.
Everybody can.
But they've lost to Detroit 3 out of 4 times this year.
So at this point, they've won 6 out of their last 7. That one loss in those 7 games was against Denver on a back-to-back in Denver. You remember that. Their upside, obviously, with the Jason Tatum news is huge. Yeah. Coming up here on First Take, quarterbacks.
Jaylen Brown, another big night. He had 27, 8, and 8. But I'm told you want to highlight one of his teammates.
Yeah, the reason the Celtics have played so well this year isn't just because of Jaylen Brown, but their role players. And Neemias Queta has been amazing for them. He had 17 rebounds and 3 blocks in this game. Now, look, Joel Embiid was out, but he has been having major performances defensively for them all year. This guy was a decent backup for the Celtics last year. how they decided, based on what they knew about him, that he could be their starting center this year, and then he's been a borderline all-star player as their starting center, is a huge tip of the cap to Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens, and the rest of that team.
So I know, and last week, parenthetically, I just want to throw this in. I know that the 40-20 rule, that they did not theoretically meet the standard of 40-20, meaning to win your 40th game before your 20th loss. However, they are 40 and 20.
Right.
So they got to the number. They didn't get there in the order that we said.
They got to 21st, but they were right on they were at 39 and I believe in 19, right?
I think it was 38 and 20, and now they're 40 and 20, and here they are, which is why I have been saying all along that if I had a vote, and I don't anymore, right this minute, Jaylen Brown would be my MVP because of what I believe he has meant to this team that I think everyone thought might even consider tanking this season.
Well, who's done more with less? That's what you could say.
That's the point.
Right.
Scottie Pippen should have been the MVP of the league in 1994. I've been saying it for now 31 years or whatever it is, and I believe that Jaylen should be that. Now, we don't have the permission to play it, so I'm just going to explain to you in the just released second episode of Jason Tatum's documentary, which is called The Quiet Work. This is shot, it was like 6 weeks after he had the surgery on his Achilles. And he was talking in the interview, and you know, this is all part of the documentary, and he says, look, I'm not coming back to be a role player. And 6 weeks removed from having surgery on your Achilles when you're Jason Tatum, that's obviously a perfectly acceptable thing to say. Jason Tatum is never going to be a role player. He's one of the 5 best players in the entire world. Right. That said, when it is released now, as it has just been, and the Celtics are having the season they are, and Jaylen Brown is having the season he is, and Jason Tatum is the occasional lightning rod that he sometimes has been, people are going to make a big deal of it. Again, we wanted to play it for you, but we don't have the permission to do it. So, Wendy, I will ask you first and foremost, as we look at the Celtics and we look at the Tatum of it all right now, how do you think this thing plays out over the next 2-3 months?
Well, if Jason Tatum truly wants to be able to make an impact, you know, he's going to need a ramp-up period. And so what does that mean? Does his ramp-up period training camp next year? Or is his ramp-up period, you know, March and April before the playoffs? I mean, this is something that only he knows, because you're not going to come back out there instantaneously and be averaging 25 and 10 like we're used to seeing him. You're going to have a build-up. So if that's indeed what he wants, and look, you want to be an impact player in the playoffs. You don't really care about being an impact player for games at the end of the regular season. Then you would expect Tatum to want to try to get some games under his belt. And the one thing that you're going to hear from the Celtics on Tatum is nothing. They're not going to put any public pressure on him. They are not going to let you see him working out. There is reports of people saying he looks great in these workouts, but looking great in a workout doesn't mean anything with how does that leg feel, where is his trust level with it. So, look, I think Jason Tatum is intended all along to want to play. That said, I cannot sit here and report to you exactly what I think is going to happen because I think that's still in development.
The problem is, again, we talked about this last week, that the problem isn't about whether or not he should or shouldn't, because what's best for the athlete is important here for him mentally. And this has been his why the whole year, working on something to come back. They have stayed in the hunt, in fact, way more than anybody expected, to open the door of, hey, when you come back, it makes us better. Problem is the pressure that comes with that, because the minute he steps on the court and they announce that he is back, even in limited minutes, the Celtics become the favorite to come out of the East,
for sure,
and a favorite to win the championship. Might be unfair pressure. No one has come back from the injury within 12 months or less and jumped right into a playoff race or the playoffs. It's asking a lot. It might be unfair. And for him also, he can't be a role player, even if you wanted him to be, because the expectations would be he'd be a lot more.
Monica.
I'm looking at the math now at this point, though, to Wendy's point, right? Like, there's 20 games or so left to go. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen soon. I also am just thinking this through as an athlete. Not coming back to be a role player, for sure, we understand that. But for a small stint, as you rev up, like it is, to some degree, it is inevitable. So,
and what about the impact it could have on the team? They've learned how to play this way, 40 and 20, with Brown as the main piece and a lot of other guys playing roles. He steps in, it changes the dynamic.
I do think that we're probably overblowing that just a little bit because we talked about them forever about needing to be broken up and all they did is figure it out and win a championship. So I think that part will get figured out. Yes, there will be some difference, but I'm less worried about that and more worried about, like you said, the Jason Tatum trust of it all.
And I think it's a great example of sometimes the context is everything. People are going to react to him saying, I'm not coming in to be a role player. It is important that we remind you, he said that 6 weeks removed from surgery. He didn't say it in the last 25 minutes. Okay, now I've been promising this all morning long. Michael Jordan has had another